Hello, welcome to my channel Qubit Educational Services. My name is Pradesh. I am a mechanical engineer and I hold a master's degree from Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. In this video, we are going to solve the engineering mathematics section of GATE XE 2012. If you don't know the paper structure, there will be 11 questions overall and 15 marks. Out of these 11 questions, 7 questions will carry 1 mark each and the remaining 4 will carry 2 marks each, and thereby the total becomes 15. Let us start with our first question, which is based on the topic linear algebra or matrices as people usually call it. For the matrix M 145026003, consider the following statements. Note that matrix M is an upper triangular matrix. Okay? Yes. P 3 is an eigenvalue of M. Q 410 is an eigenvector of M. R 420 is an eigenvector of M. Which of the above statements are true? P and Q but not R. P and R but not Q. Q and R but not P, and all are true. Now, if you have a diagonal matrix or an upper triangular matrix or a lower triangular matrix, the diagonal elements themselves are the eigenvalues. And observe that the number 3 is present here as a diagonal element. So clearly P is true because 3 is an eigenvalue of M. Okay. Now to check whether these two vectors are eigenvectors, we need to pre-multiply the vectors by the matrix M. Okay, so let us start by doing the multiplication M into Q. Okay, let us go to the first row, first column. 4 plus 4, 8, and then 5 into 0, so 8. 0, and then second row, first column. 0 plus 2 plus 0, so 2, and then here we will have 0. Okay, now observe that the vector 820 can also be obtained by multiplying 410 by 2. So Q is true because it is indeed an eigenvector of M. Let's check for R. Okay, so let us take the product of the matrix M and the vector R. Okay, starting with the first row and first column. So 1 into 4, 4, 4 into 2, 8, and 0, so 12. Okay, second row, first column. 0, 4, 0, so 4, and third row is anyway going to produce 0. Now observe that 12 over 0 is never going to be a constant multiple of 420. Although 4 is a factor of 12 and 2 is a factor of 4, their ratio is not same. So for any of these eigenvalues 1, 2, 3, we are going to get 420's multiple as 1240. Okay, that is not going to happen, so R is not right. So the only statements that are true are P and Q but not R. Okay, so option A. A very simple question testing your knowledge of eigenvalues and eigenvectors. Let us go to question 2. This is very simple. Okay, simplest perhaps. Taylor series of f of x, which is 1 over 1 upon x about x equal to 0, is given as 1 plus x squared plus x cubed and so on. This series can be used to evaluate f of x for. Now all of us know that this is a geometric series, and a convergent geometric series has the sum 1 upon 1 minus x, provided the first term is 1 and the common ratio is x. Okay, and what is the requirement? The absolute value of the common ratio has to be less than 1. Okay, so what is the correct option? C. Mod x less than 1, only then the series converges, otherwise it is going to diverge. Okay, now I'm sure most of you will already know this, but if you don't know, or if you have forgotten what you learned in the geometric series in your 11th 12th days, then you have to use the ratio test to determine the radius of convergence, okay, of this infinite series. I'm leaving that to you as homework. Question number 3 is based on chain rule of partial differentiation. Let f of u comma v be u times log of v, and let uppercase f be a function or the same function perhaps, or it is the same function f of u and v. Okay, where u is x upon y and v is x minus y, then dabba f by dabba y is, and we have 4 options. Observe that in options B, C and D, all 4 variables are there, that is x, y and uv, but in option A only x and y are there. Okay, alright. So we first start by writing down the function's definition. Okay, it is given that uppercase f is actually a function of uv, f of uv, which is u times log of v. Okay, so f of u comma v is u times log of v, and now we draw this arrow diagram. F is a function of u and v, and through u and v it is a function of x and y, because both u and v themselves are functions of x and y. Therefore, by chain rule, if we want to find the partial derivative of f with respect to y, we will connect y and f through as many ways as possible. Okay, so it will be dabba f by dabba u into dabba u by dabba y, that is this term, plus dabba f by dabba v into dabba v by dabba y, that is this term. Okay, now let us go to dabba f by dabba u. Okay, and to do it, to get it, we will take the help of this definition, u times log of v. Dabba f by dabba u will be simply 1 into log of v, yes, into dabba u by dabba y. U is x upon y, so dabba u by dabba y will be x into negative 1 upon y squared, plus dabba f by dabba v, u into 1 upon v, simple. Dabba v by dabba y will be minus 1. Okay, yes. Now we have to carefully pick that option which has log of v into minus x upon y squared as one of the terms. C is not going to be there because there the term is positive, so is D. So it then boils down to either A or B, okay, because v is x minus y. Now let us focus on the second term. It is minus 1 into u upon v, which is there in option B, okay, and not in option A, even if you try substituting the values of u and v. Actually it has a it doesn't have the negative sign. That is the reason why option A is not right. Otherwise x upon y is u and x minus y is v, that's perfectly fine, but due to the negative sign it's not the case. Okay, so option B is the right option for question 3. Question number 4 is based on complex differentiation, and I would say that if you are already good at complex differentiation, meaning if you already know what functions are analytic and what are not, which functions are not analytic, you can actually just read the question and mark the options. Okay, consider two functions f of z equal to mod z and g of z equal to z bar or conjugate of z. Using Cauchy-Riemann conditions, choose the correct answer. A, both are analytic. B, f is analytic but g is not. C, g is analytic but f is not. And D, none of them. Okay, now these are two very basic, or I would say simple functions which are not analytic. Okay, you can, okay, let us do it for z bar. Okay, what is z bar? Z bar is x minus iy if z is x plus iy. So the real part of z bar is x and the imaginary part is minus y. Okay, so first Cauchy-Riemann equation is dabba u by dabba x is equal to dabba v by dabba y. U with respect to x1, v with respect to y is minus 1. And because 1 can never be equal to minus 1, at first Cauchy-Riemann equation is not satisfied, and that is enough to decide that g of z is not analytic. Okay, similarly you can establish the fact that mod z is also not analytic because it is purely real and of course a variable function. Okay, so dabba u by dabba y as well as dabba u by dabba x are never going to be zeros. Okay, but what is going to happen with dabba v by dabba x and dabba v by dabba y? Because v itself is 0, these will be zeros always. So there are infinitely many values where the Cauchy-Riemann equations are not satisfied, and there you will get the answer. None of them is analytic. I mean, even if you get a single value, a single complex number where the equations are not satisfied, the function is no longer analytic. Okay, so question 4, option D. Question 5 is based on vector differential calculus, okay, and based on the fact that the direction of maximum increase of f is along its gradient, okay. For f, which is x to the power 4 minus 5xy squared, the direction of maximum increase of f at the point 2, 2 is along 3i plus 10j minus 12i minus 40j, 3i minus 10j and minus 12i plus 40j. Okay, now observe that options C and D, these are unlike parallel vectors, because vector D is obtained when you multiply vector C by -4. Okay, and because the sign of -4 is minus, these are along the same line but they are unlike parallel. Okay, if one is along this direction then the other one is along this direction. Okay, so you have to be a bit more careful now. Step 1 is to find the gradient. Del f 4x cube minus 5y squared I cap, partial derivative with respect to x, plus 0 minus 10xy, partial derivative with respect to y, j cap. Now let us substitute x and y as 2. So first you'll get 4 into 8, so 32, minus 5 into 4, so 20, 32 minus 20 is 12. Then plus, now we'll substitute x and y as 2 here, so we'll get minus 40. Okay, yes. So the direction that we have got, the direction of maximum increase is always along the gradient. So the direction that we have got is 12y minus 40j. So do not mark option D. Option D is not right, okay, because that is actually the direction of maximum decrease, okay, and we want the direction of maximum increase. So that is option C, because the vector in C is actually obtained when you multiply our vector by a positive constant, which is 1 upon 4. And because 1 upon 4 is greater than 0 or is positive, C is going to be the right option. Maximum increase, C. Had it been maximum decrease, we would have selected option D. Okay. Question 6 is from probability, but again a very simple question. Suppose 50% of the population of a village likes oranges, 70% likes apples, and 40% like both. If a person is picked at random who likes at least one of these fruits, what is the probability that the person likes oranges? And we have all 4 valid probability numbers, okay, that is positive but less than 1. Now the best strategy to solve these problems is you have to assume a convenient population count. Okay, so let us say there are 100 people, 50% like oranges, so there are 50 people who love oranges or like oranges. Okay, 70% likes apples, so 70 people will be there who like apples, and 40% like both, so there will be 40 people who like both the apples as well as oranges. Now we need to find first people who like at least one of these fruits. That means at least one or both. Okay, so the total number of such people will be people who like oranges plus people who like apples minus people who like the both, because these are counted not only in this set but also in this set. Okay, that is basically principle of inclusion exclusion, right? Yes, so 50 plus 70 minus 40, this will be 120 minus 40, so 80. Okay, so now this 80 will sit in our denominator because now we are picking a person from that list which consists of only those people who like at least one fruit. Okay, so 80. What is the probability that the person likes oranges? So out of these 80 people, there are 50 who like oranges, so 5 by 8 is going to be our answer. Yes. And as a homework, we can also determine the number of people or the probability that a randomly chosen person from the entire population doesn't like even a single fruit. Okay, I think that is a very simple one. So these are first 6. Let us now go to the last question, which carries 1 mark. Question number 7 from partial differential equations. For the solution of Laplace's equation del square d equal to 0, the domain and the boundary conditions are shown below. Okay, so the domain is a trapezium and the boundary conditions are always constant. I mean, in this case, constant boundary conditions t, 30, 20 and 10. Which of the following statements is true? The solution cannot be obtained by using separation of variables because the governing equation is not separable. The solution cannot be obtained by separation of variables because all the boundary values are non-zero. The solution cannot be obtained because not all the boundary conditions, not all the boundaries are along constant coordinate lines. And option D, the solution can be obtained by separation of variables. Okay, now definitely A and B are not right, because we know that the governing equation is actually variable separable. Okay, so this is false, and the solution cannot be obtained because all the boundary values are non-zero. This is also not true. Okay, you can have all boundary values non-zero, but still you can solve it by the separation of variables. Okay, so the answer to this question is you cannot solve it by the separation of variables because of this boundary u equal to 10. Now this boundary is not along a constant coordinate curve, or in this case, because we are in Cartesian coordinates, constant coordinate lines. Yeah. Okay, so because of this inclined boundary, we cannot solve it with the help of separation of variables. Okay, so please remember this. For the method of separation of variables to work, we must have constant coordinate curves. Okay, so if we are into polar coordinates, then we must have our boundaries in the form r equal to constant and theta equal to constant. Only then you can apply the method of separation of variables. The original equation may be solvable, okay, or may be separable but not solvable by the separation of variables. Okay, or you cannot get the solution, right? So this completes 1 mark section. Let us now go to 2 mark section. So the last 4 carry 2 marks each. Question 8 is a 12th standard level question testing your knowledge of the concepts of differentiability, okay, of single variable functions. If f of x is x into sin x and g of x is mod of x into sin x, then g of x is mod of f of x, g of x is even. The x coordinates corresponding to various local maxima are identical for both f and g. G is differentiable at 0. Now I have solved this question by the method of elimination of the options. Okay, yes. See, now what I have done is I have picked a value of x for which sin x is negative but mod x is positive. Okay, so the first one is 3 pi by 2. Yes. So what is g of 3 pi by 2? It is going to be g mod of 3 pi by 2 into sin 3 pi by 2, which is negative 1. So this is clearly a negative number, negative 3 pi by 2. Now let us go to the function f and try to determine the value of f at 3 pi by 2. F of 3 pi by 2 will be 3 pi by 2 into minus 1. Okay, yes. See, now actually option A is telling us g of x is equal to mod of f of x, but this can never be true because for real numbers mod is always non-negative. Okay, so A is going to be incorrect. I mean, the moment you see the negative sign here, immediately you should discard option A. Go to B. Mod x is even, sin x is odd, and product of an even function and an odd function is always an odd function, unlike numbers. If you take an even number and multiply it by an odd number, you'll get even number, but not with the functions. Okay, so g of x is not odd. Well, it is odd, it is not even, so B is also not right. Okay, now I checked D. Okay, g of x is differentiable at 0. Now what I did was I piecewise defined g of x due to mod. Okay, so if x is positive, I defined g of x as x into sin x because of mod x being equal to x for positive values of x. Okay, so what is the derivative now? Apply the product rule. 1 into sin x plus x into cos x. Yes. Now when x is negative, g of x is minus x sin x, which implies that the derivative will be minus 1 into sin x plus minus x into cos x, again by product rule. Now if we substitute x equal to 0, we will get sin 0 0, and because of this x it will be 0, and same thing will be applicable here, which means the left hand derivative at 0 and the right hand derivative at 0 are equal. So D is actually the correct option. Okay, yes, which means C is also not right. You can use any graphing calculator or any grapher tool to verify that C is not right. Okay, especially in the second quadrant and third. Okay, because that is where you will actually see the difference between these two curves. In the first quadrant and in the fourth, there will not be any difference because mod of x is equal to x if x is positive. Okay, yes, so that is question 8. Let us now go to question 9, which is based on ordinary differential equations of higher order. Okay, the general solution of d4y by dx to the power 4 minus 2 d3y by dx cubed plus 2 d2y by dx squared minus 2 dy by dx plus y equal to 0 is, and we have got 4 options. Now we first note that because the right hand side is 0, in short every term contains either y or its derivative, it is homogeneous. Okay, coefficients are constants, 1 minus 2, 2 minus 2, 1, and clearly it is a fourth order differential equation. So it is a linear differential equation with constant coefficients as well as it is homogeneous. Okay, so the solution will consist of only the complementary function, no particular integral will be there. Okay, and the complementary function can be obtained by solving the auxiliary equation. Okay, which will be m to the power 4 minus 2m cubed plus 2m squared minus 2m plus 1 equal to 0. Okay, see now if you look at the options, all of them include 1, minus 1, I and minus I. Okay, I mean I'm not saying these are present in each and every option, but nonetheless these are present in at least, well, in one of them, some of them. Okay, fine. So first I checked with 1, where I checked whether 1 is a root, this one. Okay, so it's simple, substitute m equal to 1, so 1 minus 2 plus 2 minus 2 plus 1 plus 2 minus 2 will go, 1 plus 1 2, 2 minus 2 0, so 1 is a root. Okay, now instead of going for negative 1, I went for I. Okay, I to the power 4 1, I cubed is minus I, but minus into minus plus, so 2i, I squared minus 1, so negative 2, minus 2m, so minus 2i plus 1. Okay, now observe that plus 2i and minus 2i will cancel each other, and plus 1 and minus 2, they will also cancel each other, so I is a root, and because I is a root, minus I has to be another root, because this is a polynomial equation with real coefficients. So if at all it has complex roots, they must appear in pairs, and one has to be the complex conjugate of the other. Okay, now because it is a 4th degree polynomial equation, it can have at most 4 roots by the fundamental theorem of algebra. Yes, and therefore we can very easily determine the 4th root by using the formula to find the sum of the sum of all the roots. Okay, so it is always the coefficient of second largest power of the variable divided by the largest power of the variable coefficient into minus 1. Okay, I mean if you have a quadratic equation, then how do you find the sum of the roots? Negative b upon a. Same thing we'll be doing here. Okay, so it is going to be minus of minus 2, this coefficient, upon a1, which is 1. Okay, so the sum is 2, and we already have got 3 roots, 1i and minus I, so the 4th root has to be 1, m4, because I and minus I will go, so 1 plus m4 is 2, implies m4 equals 1. Okay, so minus 1 is not going to be the root, 1 is a double root now, so that part will be c1x plus c2x e to the power x, and I is a root, so we'll have c3 cos x plus c4 sin x. Okay, so we'll pick that part which includes the repeated root 1, so either A or C, but it has to be C, okay, because we have circular functions for purely imaginary roots. So question 9, option C. Question 10 is based on vector integral calculus, specifically, as the problem suggests, divergence theorem. Okay. Evaluation of the double integral of e to the power x I cap plus 3y j cap minus z e to the power x k cap dot n cap dA over a surface S, which is a unit sphere centered at origin, using the divergence theorem gives 0, 4 pi, 4 pi by 3 and 12 pi. Okay, now because the problem itself is telling us to find this by the divergence theorem, we'll first take the divergence of this. Okay, so it is going to be e to the power x plus 3 minus e to the power x, which will be 3 itself. Okay, and by the divergence theorem, this surface integral equals the triple integral of the divergence of that vector point function taken over the entire volume V enclosed by the surface S. Okay, but because divergence is a constant quantity, that constant will come outside the integration, and it will then mean that it is volume of sphere, which is 4 by 3 pi r cube, unit radius. So 4 pi by 3 into 1, 3 will get cancelled, answer will be 4 pi. So B. Okay. Now some of these 2 marks questions are very simple, are very easy when you compare them with the other questions from XE. Okay. Yes. So that is question 10. Question 11, the one and the only question from the numerical methods topic. The exact solution of the integral from 0 to 4 of x squared minus 4 with respect to x is denoted by IE. The same integral evaluated numerically by the trapezoidal rule and the Simpson's 1/3 rule are denoted by IT and IS respectively. The subinterval used in the numerical methods is h equal to 2. Then, and we are given some inequalities and equalities. Okay, so we have no option left but to actually calculate all the 3. So let us go with the exact value. It's pretty simple. X cubed by 3 minus 4x is integral. Yes. So I mean that is the integral of x squared minus 4. 64 by 3 minus 16 minus 0. Okay, 16 into 3 48. 64 minus 48 16. So 16 upon 3 is IE. Now for trapezoidal rule, because the step size is 2, x0 will be 0, x1 will be 2 and x2 will be 4. Okay, so there will only be 2 trapeziums, and the only value of y that will come twice is the one associated with x1, okay, which is 2 squared minus 4, so 0. Alright, so you should multiply that value by 2 and other values of y should come as there. Okay, so if x0 is 0, y0 will be negative 4, and if x0 is 4, if x2 is 4, then y2 will be 16 minus 4 or 12. 12 minus 4 8, and this is h by 2, but h is 2, so it is 8. So definitely the one that we have got by trapezoidal rule is greater than the exact value. Yes. Okay, and this is the situation, that is IE less than IT, not in A and also not in D. IE less than IT. So it has to be either B or C, and that will be decided by IS. Okay, now this is Simpson's 1/3 rule. Again h is this, but now it is 1 upon 3 times. Okay, see now the first and the last values of y, they will be there as they are. Okay, y0 and yn, and all the middle values will get appropriate coefficients. Okay, now if the subscript is odd, you multiply that value of y by 4, and if the subscript is even, then you multiply it by 2. Okay, but that is not going to matter in this case because the value of y1 itself is 0, isn't it? Yes. Okay, so this is going to be 12 minus 4 8, 8 into 2 16, 16 upon 3. Yes. Okay, so IE is equal to IS. So IE equal to IS less than IT, so it is option B. Okay, And let me remind you that Simpson's one-third rule actually uses a parabolic curve to approximate the function, okay, or specifically its integral. All right, yes. So this is the end of our discussion of GATE XE 2012 Engineering Mathematics section. Thank you all for watching and all the best for your examination. Thank you.